Hey, what's up, Street Dogs? Eric Kim from the Eric Kim Street Photography blog. So I want to just share with you some rando turbo thoughts I had about philosophy of bigness. So this is the general thing that I'm interested in. When is bigger better and when is bigger worse? So let me just kind of outline some ideas. I found in my experiences, generally speaking, bigger is worse. So for example, bigger file sizes, worse. More megapixels, more problems. Bigger houses are worse. More stuff to clean and maintain. Bigger cars are worse because they're not as fun to drive. They're more difficult to park and so forth. And well, this is one big bad. Yeah, so those are just some examples of where big is bad. So other examples where big is good. So, you know, generally speaking, bigger humans in terms of just sheer grandness of size is seen as better. So generally the taller you are, the better it is. And also more muscle mass is generally seen as better. So example, if you're a 6'2" guy, you weigh 220 pounds, but you're only 10% body fat and you're mostly muscle, that is very good bigness. However, same thing if you're 6'2", you're 40% body fat and 220 pounds, then bigness is bad. So here, with human physique, more body fat is bad, and that's where bigger is worse. So, you know, especially if you go on a flight and you see a person who takes up 2 seats, that type of bigness is bad because, I mean, A, it just makes your life a little bit more difficult. You know, sometimes you have to buy 2 seats or whatever, and it just makes you have less energy and so forth. So I think the problem about humans is that we generally equate bigness with strength. So for example, if you go to the gym, right, you see the guy who's really, really big, you assume he's stronger than the guy who's smaller. But that's not always the case. Actually, sometimes, this is actually the irony, is that often the guys at the gym who are the strongest don't look strong at all. They just kind of look like a bunch of like, these are like average people, but they could often be the strongest guys. And the guys who often look the strongest actually aren't the strongest. Anyways, so sometimes size can be a little bit deceiving. So even with houses, right? We see the big house, the big car, we're like, wow, I want that, and you know, it kind of gets glamorized. And once again, like, it's a human bias, right? Is that bigger is generally seen as better. However, the problem is, once again, you buy the huge SUV, you buy the huge house, and you're like, oh my God, this is such a pain in the ass to clean, maintain, blah, blah, park. And still, this is the thing that I find so interesting because, like, right, you remember when the gas was super expensive and then everyone's just ditching the SUVs and buying hybrids and electric cars? Now gas is hella cheap again, so everyone's buying the SUVs again or buying these like mini SUVs, which I think are kind of a silly notion. And you know, even if you have like a $200,000 SUV, if you can't park that, it's kind of a pain in the ass. It just like legitimately makes your life worse. And I've driven one of these behemoths. They're actually not that fun to drive either. So, for example, I think it would probably be way more fun to have a Mazda Miata, which is super small, than to own a Cadillac Escalade, which is massive. Or even similar examples, like I'd rather have a McLaren than have like a Ford Mustang, which is obviously a lot bigger. So maybe what we're trying to strive for is better. So we generally think bigger is better. Bigger is sometimes better, bigger is oftentimes worse. And so I think it's important for us to just kind of untangle that and figure out when is bigger better, when is bigger worse. So my general thought is this. The point isn't bigness for the sake of bigness, nor is the smallness for the sake of smallness. The point is we want to find what's best and what's optimal for us. So for example, even I'm recording this, so if you're curious about what I'm recording this on is, I'm using a Lumix G9, the Leica / Lumix 12mm 1.4 lens, and a big ass Rode video mic which is pointed at my face. And it's kind of big, it's kind of heavy, like, I mean, still smaller than a DSLR, but it's not as small as my Rico, whatever. But I actually find this a better blogging solution or vlogging solution because it's actually simpler, because I have this huge mic. I don't have to worry about the audio, even though, apologies, I'm in this this stairway, which is a little bit more echoey. I don't have to worry about the audio. So I shoot the video, I'm shooting 1080, 60 FPS, program mode, high contrast dynamic black and white. I have the articulating screen flipped out facing me, so I know that the framing looks good and whatever. So it's actually the simplest solution I've been able to figure out, which makes my life so much easier. So I shoot the video, plug the SD card into my laptop, and I literally just drag the files into YouTube, or I drag it to my blog. And so, I could have an easier solution with a smaller device, but it actually might be a little bit more like kind of a pain in the ass for me to fix the audio and stuff like that. So here, bigger, it's not even about bigger or smaller, it's about like what's best. So maybe moving forward to think about life, just think about what your life goals are and what your intended consequences are, and then figure out the optimal solution. Because also, I know that I personally fall victim to this, is that sometimes you kind of get suckered that like, oh, minimalism for the sake of minimalism, right? Is that you just try to make your shit as light as possible. But that's often a little bit bad, because having too few stuff, and I've experienced this too, sometimes having too few stuff could actually be legitimately worse, because you have to stress out about like not having enough stuff. So just think about what your intended consequences are. I think generally the goal is towards grandeur, strength, epicness, creative productivity. Optimize your life on that, not what's on big, what's small. Seek for what's best. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Peace out.